Honestly, spoilers are the absolute worst. You think that you've escaped it, you think that you're not going to be spoiled for something, and then you're scrolling through Twitter and bam, spoiler. Hey guys, it's Abby from Abby of Pellinor, and today I am finally doing the spoiler tag that Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe tagged me in a little while ago. I'm finally doing it. This is pretty self-explanatory, I do believe. We've got 8 questions, and we're going to be talking about spoilers.
Spoilers.
So, question number 1, what do you consider to be a spoiler? This is such a difficult question. What the hell? I was expecting these to just be like, oh yeah, these are easy. No, fuck. I should have thought about these beforehand. It depends how invested I am in the series. It really depends on how invested I am in the series. If I don't care about the series at all, if I'm not going to watch, read, whatever, anything like that, if I'm not going to consume the media, then you can tell me everything. Like, I'll frequently get like a little bit nosy after seeing part of a film downstairs, if I'm like sitting with my dad for a bit, and I'll leave. He's usually watched the film before, so I just turn to him and I'm like, summarise the entire plot for me. If it's something that I'm like mildly interested in, but I'm not gonna like rush to pick out like the next book or the next episode, I'm just like, eh. Then if someone spoils like the vibes for it, then I'm not bothered. So like if it's something that's very much just like, oh yeah, at the end it's like dramatic, I'm like, cool, that's fine. If it's something that I'm obsessed with, do not tell me anything, like at all, like nothing. Like, I don't want to know if you thought it was good, if you thought it was bad. I don't want to know if you think it's happy or sad. I don't want to know if there is a certain character who is still alive at the end. Don't tell me. Just don't. Which makes it really awkward to talk about books when I'm filming videos, because I don't want to spoil someone for a series that they love in the same sort of way. So I hesitate, especially just mentioning that characters are still alive. Like, if I say, oh yeah, Johnny's alive at the end of the book, that's a spoiler. If somebody adores the series and doesn't want to know anything going in, the fact that Johnny's alive is a spoiler. Olivia also had a really good discussion about trigger warnings in her video. I recommend just going and watching her video because she spoke about it with such nuance and I really enjoyed that discussion. But I will say, in essence, I agree. For me, I don't require trigger warnings for anything other than one thing, and if I don't get the trigger warning for it, I'm okay. I'm fine. It just... long story. But yeah, so I don't need them, essentially. So for me, they are spoilers of telling me something that's in a book. Like, to give an example of a trigger warning could be, I don't know, murder. To me, a murder is like a twist in a book. So, because it's not a trigger for me, knowing that that's in the book is a spoiler. But you of course need to include trigger warnings, of course. So what I've been attempting to do is when I'm specifically recommending books, I put the trigger warnings now, as of videos from just before now and from now on, in the description. I put them at the very bottom, underneath everything, underneath all my links to everywhere. It just means that if somebody wants or needs to see those trigger warnings prior to reading, that it's accessible for them, they don't have to go hunting for it. It's there for them immediately, but putting it at the bottom of the description box, which most people don't open anyway, means that it doesn't spoil anyone, for anybody who doesn't require those triggers. So for me, that is the perfect balance. So it's something that kind of stops it from spoiling somebody, and also provides that much needed like notification to somebody who needs those trigger warnings that they are available for them. So that's my middle ground. If you have any like thoughts on that, of how you think that it should be done, if you think I'm doing it wrong, if you need trigger warnings and you think I'm doing it wrong, let me know. I'm 100% up for that discussion. For me, it depends how much I give a shit about whatever it is that I'm being spoiled for. Question 2, does the genre you're reading impact what you consider to be a spoiler? Yes. If it's like a rom-com or just a romance, we all know that they're gonna end up together at the end. If it's a fantasy book, then you can kind of anticipate that the majority of the main characters will survive, but that there will be a few surprise deaths, and that if it's a series, at the end of the book they're gonna leave off on like another thing that they need to do, or they won't have finished their task. So if I am aware of the vagueness of that, and if they're like, yeah, no, it's that, that's fine. Anything more specific, and I'm like, no. And then I think with thrillers, they're just so easy to spoil that it's best to just not say anything. And then the last one would be historical fiction. Obviously that's not the last genre, it's just the last genre I'm discussing. Shut up. That one is interesting because if it's based on real history, then like I remember I was reading, I can't remember what book it was, but I was reading a historical fiction and I got spoiled, as in somebody informed me of the historical event as it happened. And I was like, well, you've ruined the book for me now because I didn't know. So it depends on, I mean, technically that isn't a spoiler. Like, I couldn't be mad at them because it's not a spoiler. Like, for example, if you don't know about the Titanic sinking, I'm using that one because most people do, then finding out that the Titanic sinks prior to watching the movie, you're going to be like, what? What? But it's a historical event, it happened. So it's like, I can't be mad if you do. It's basically that one. Question 3. All the best bits are in the trailer. Sometimes a synopsis can be too detailed. Do you research books prior to reading them, or do you prefer to know nothing about the book? I don't research my books before going in, but I will read the synopsis, and then when I hear people talking about them on their channels or Bookstagram, book blogs, all of that, just kind of the general vibe that I get, that's also something that I really go off of. Of course, the synopsis has to like entice me in the first place, but once I've read it once, that tends to be it. For example, I've got The Queen of the Tearling on my TBR shelves. Yes, shut up, I've still not read it, leave me alone. I don't know what that's about, I just know it's a YA fantasy. Or possibly an adult fantasy, I don't even know. But I read the synopsis years ago and went, yeah, with that synopsis plus everyone hyping around it a few years ago, I want to give that a shot. So I have no idea what it's about. I may or may not read this, like the synopsis on the back of the book before I go in. Yeah, I don't like research. And if it's a thriller, I have a bad habit of, even with thrillers, reading the entire blurb on the back of the book, even though it's probably going to spoil something. So I really need to get out of that habit. It's like, it's one of the ones that I will do it for, and I'm like, why? You're just spoiling yourself. 4. Sometimes the introduction or translator's notes can spoil the ending, especially for classics. Has this ever happened to you? So in all of the classics that I've read, when they've got an introductory note, it says you can read up to this point, and then when you've hit that point, you need to have read the book before you read this because it's going to spoil it. Like, they say quite clearly on those notes, this is a spoiler. This is going to spoil your reading experience if you haven't read it already. So I've not had an issue with introductions because they very clearly state, don't read. Translator's notes. No, I've not had any spoilers from that. I have been annoyed at some of them. For example, Frankenstein. It was just pointing out the obvious for me. I'm a native English speaker. I have quite a decent grasp on kind of being able to contextually figure out what a word means if I don't know it. Just from years of reading as a kid and my parents getting fed up of me constantly bugging them to ask them what words meant. So some of them I got a little bit wrong, but 99% of them I did good. So then when they're like putting these little asterisks against something, and I'm like, well, I think it means this, but clearly there's something to infer here, so let's go see it. And then they're just telling me what I already knew, and I was like, why? It would be great for non-native English speakers, or for people who don't have the like context ability to like decipher what a word means or what a phrase means in the context, but I do, so that was pissing me off. And then in so that was in Frankenstein, and then in War and Peace, Tolstoy keeps just telling us who these people are, but we don't need to care. He's like, I'm going to introduce this man. You never need to hear about him again, but here's his life story and what he did for Russia. And I'm like, I get it, but I don't need to care. This book is long enough as it is, my man. No, I've never been spoiled by any of those. I could have answered that much shorter. Okay, question 5. Name a time that somebody spoiled a novel for you. I was spoiled, obviously I can't say anything specific, but I was spoiled for Cookie Kingdom. There is an event which occurs within these pages, and somebody tweeted about it. To be fair, it was a few years after release. It took me a little while to get around to this one, but I didn't realise it was even about the book until I'd already read it, and then I was like, massive spoiler. massive spoiler. And so then the entire way through the book, I was just waiting for it to happen. Obviously, like, I didn't even tell the person that they'd spoiled me. Just didn't mention nothing. But that was a massive spoiler. And yeah, it was awful. I think that book will be better on reread because I already know everything that's going to happen versus being like, but when's it going to happen? I'll have to reread it at some point. Question 6. Have you ever spoiled a novel for somebody else? I don't think so. Obviously I talk about books a lot on camera, so I may have spoiled somebody, but they've never said. I reply to all of the comments, so I see them all. No one's ever said I spoiled anything for them. I probably have at some point when I was younger. I work in a call centre, my voice is not happy. 7. If spoilers ruin novels, are there some authors or genres you can't reread? Thrillers. So I know a lot of the time thrillers and mysteries and crime stories will be lumped in together. I think that mysteries are something that you can reread, especially things like Poirot, Sherlock, those vibes. I 100% think you can reread those. I have reread them multiple times. It's, you're then able to pick up more of those context clues throughout the book, as well as just being told the story again, versus thriller crime novels. The entire novel is based off of you don't know what's happening. So I read A Stranger in the House by Shari Lupina. It was alright, it was fine. I'm pretty sure I gave it 3 stars. There were some bits I didn't like about it, but overall, decent thriller. I'm never going to reread it in my life. Unless I suffer memory loss, and then like, sure, I may as well. It was half decent. But it's just, I now know how that ends. I know exactly how it ends. I know all of the beats of the plot, and the entire point of the book rests on you not knowing those final moments. Like, the only reason I was still reading is because I didn't know, and I was nosy. Like, this is what gets me through thrillers, is that I'm just really fucking nosy. I would never ever reread a thriller unless I had actually forgotten what happened. But as you can see, I don't know, I will happily reread fantasy till the cows come home. I'll read historical fiction. This is my copy of Just Henry, which is set just after World War II, and it is dilapidated. Less dilapidated than I thought. That was disappointing. For other genres, it just depends on, did I enjoy the book? But thrillers specifically, no. But I will happily reread mystery books. Love rereading Sherlock and Poirot and all of that. Question 8. When reviewing, are you spoiler free? Does this limit your ability to discuss? Yes and yes. I just went on a completely useless tangent. Basically, yes. I will keep my reviews and things spoiler free. I can't think of any videos that I've done that are spoilery. There are a couple blog posts, but no videos. And it does limit because, of course, especially once you're like a few books into a series, you don't want to then accidentally spoil something that happened 3 books back, but you're 3 books in, and it's trying to remember that and also trying to give an accurate review of a book whilst not mentioning anything that's happened in 2 separate books prior. Like, The Priory of the Orange Tree. No. The Bone Season. Fuck's sake. Samantha Shannon. The Bone Season. If I'm reviewing that, I've just read The Mask Falling. That's book 4. I can't accurately review that book, even spoiler free with that book, without spoiling these ones. So instead, I can't really review it. I just have to say, these are the emotions it gave me. Here's a plot basis rundown without spoilers of the first book. And it does limit it, but then at the same time I don't want to spoil it for someone and have the experience that I had ruined for somebody else. So yeah, it's a pain in the arse, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to do it. And question 9 is shout out, tell us about 5 channels that you enjoy and tag them below. I could do way more than 5. I could easily do so many more than 5. I'm going to start with Veronica. I adore her channel. Please go check it out. She's wonderful. She's an autistic reader from Sweden. She has great recommendations for books, and also she's recently done some great autistic content, so if you want an own voices point of view of some books, 100% recommend. I'm also going to mention Alex from Alex Black Reads. She had a hiatus from the Booktonet. We were in a bit of a panini. I don't think any of us blame her. And she is back now. She's publishing videos again. She's active again, so I really recommend going and checking her out. We've got Hannah from La M. I mean, she also has her shop, Waypoint Books, so definitely recommend checking her out. Becca from The Book Sanctum. Is that 5? I told you I could keep going. Veronica, Alex, Hannah, Becca. I think that's just 4. So then we can go from Ali from the Chaotic Reader. I mean, we've got Emma Novella, we've got, like, there's a lot. There's a lot that I can do here. So I'm going to stick with the 5 that I came up with first. I'm sorry, Emma. You can do it if you want. Fucking hell, I've got no brain cells. So those are 5 wonderful booktubers that I adore watching their content of. I definitely recommend you go and find them down below. And if you've stayed this long into my fucking mess of a video, why don't you hit like and subscribe? I kept you for this long, didn't I? Thank you for so much watching. I mean, why have you stayed this long? Thank you so much for watching. Thank you again, Olivia, for tagging me. I will of course leave Olivia's video in the description down below, as well as Gunpowder Fiction and Plot's original video. This was created by them and they tagged Olivia. Thank you for watching. I am going to go get coffee, which is probably a bad idea. Bye!